Hi guys, I've got the XJS here today. I've got a temperature gauge fault. I'm not getting any temperature reading on the gauge at all, and I think it's this sender unit, but I'm going to test that first and make sure it is. And you'll notice there's a sender unit there that's only got a single spade top on it. I'm going to pull that lead off in a minute. There's another one on the other side of the engine that actually controls the ECU and the thermo fans for the cooling system, but this sensor here only controls the gauge. I'm not sure if it's the gauge or the sender unit. This is only about 3 years old, this sender unit, so it could be it, but I don't know. We'll test it and we'll find out. Right, so I've pulled that lead off the top and you can see there it's just got a single spade on the top. I think it's a 19mm. Problem is, I'm going to try and get the whole thing out without having to take all of this induction area off. The first thing I want to do is test if it's the gauge, and the easiest way to do that is to earth out this line and have a look at what's going on with the gauge. In effect, this is a variable resistor. The hotter it gets, the less resistance it puts out. As the resistance drops, the gauge on the dash cluster goes up. So what I've got to do is see what happens when I can put current through that lead there with zero resistance. That should send the gauge to the top. If that happens, I've confirmed that the gauge is working and my fault lies with this. So what I've done is I've jerry-rigged this lead, that goes on the top of the spade bit on top of the sensor. I've just picked up this bit, and in a minute I'm just going to earth this out onto portions of the car, just as an earth. I can even earth it out down there if I wanted to. Once I earth it out, I'll be able to check the gauge in the car. So at the moment, that temperature gauge is not working. The way to test it is to earth out by touching the lead to an earth and taking out of the equation that variable resistor. So I'm going to touch that on there now, and you can see there that the gauge is working. There you go, on and off. Perfect. So I know it's not the gauge, it's the actual sender unit. So I'll replace the sender unit. Alright, as you saw from that little test, we've confirmed that it is the sender unit, so I've purchased another one. And the other one has a red top. This one has a black top, but I've been assured this is the right unit, so we'll give that a go and see if we can do it. Now the problem is, can we get this out without having to take everything off? We'll give it a run and have a look. Right, it's very tight, but I've been able to get that socket in there on a bit of a bend and just crack it. I think I'll do the rest by hand. Probably not going to be able to video much of this, but if I had littler hands, that'd be easier. Anyway, we'll maybe get it by hand and then we'll come back. Right, there's the old one, the red top one. It's out. Just compare it to this one. Don't know, certainly not the same size. We'll try and thread this one in, this new one in, because that looks different to me. Alright, well, I'm not convinced that I've got the same part, but as I said, this one here was only put in 3 years ago. Did work for a while. It could well be that it is the wrong piece. Now the distance from the bottom to there is probably the same, so I don't think we're going to have a problem there. The thread looks about the same distance, but certainly the head is different. But anyway, we'll give it a go. I'll hand thread it in and see how it goes. So I'm just using this little bendy ratchet spanner just to get it tightened up. Seems to be threading in. I wonder if that should go under there. I think it might have actually before. We'll start it up and we'll let it idle for a minute and see if there's anything on the gate. Can't see any moisture coming out at the moment. We'll just keep an eye on it as it heats up. That's moved off the bottom. So that's definitely working. We'll just take it for a run and make sure that it's all in normal operating range. Righto, so we've been driving for a few minutes now. It's come up to the normal mark. It is higher than where the old sensor used to read, but given that all I've done is change the sensor, I don't think it's actually running any hotter, it's just sensing a higher value. Obviously the resistance in this one is different to the old one. I actually think this is the correct one because the old one used to read at normal temperature, probably halfway between C and N. Now I don't think it really matters as long as it's consistent and I work out what the gauge reads at normal. It's reading N, so I'm going to work with that. As I said, I showed you before, that sensor is certainly a different sensor to what I had in here before. So now oil pressure is sitting good, voltage is sitting good. The only problem I've got is fuel gauge seems to drop way too quick. Wonder why that is. Righto, we've done that 20-minute ride. That's quite hot now, the temperature. All the thermostats would have, or the thermostat would have opened up by now. It's running at normal and there's no leaks, so we're going to call that one finished. Righto, that's it. We've definitely given it a good test now. We've run it around for about half an hour. No leaks. Gauge is running perfectly. So that's it. We won't do any more for today. We're happy with it as it is. And yeah, next time we'll maybe have a look at the XKR.